wonder. The movies cost a lot of money.
Hello and welcome to another fine edition of It's a Sports Show. We're chatting off the air, and next thing you know, we're on the air. Show number 151.
We're a little rusty.
Highly anticipated. We've gotten 2 weeks off. We had to get some stuff settled, contract negotiations.
Absolutely.
And so the big 150 was a pretty big deal. It aired now for a couple of weeks.
Well, that's why we had to take a couple weeks off. I mean, we had balloons, smoke, champagne, parties, after parties, post parties, press parties, interviews on the local channels.
The blue carpet.
It's unbelievable.
We're not even good enough for the
blue
red carpet.
We got blue.
It's just like this worn out,
everybody's got red. We use blue.
Well, we got plenty to talk about, including, obviously, football, and a lot to talk about with the Patriots with their downfall. And don't get all excited. The Miami Dolphins are...
Well, I'm smiling because, the Patriots have lost 2 in a row for the first time in a long time.
4 years.
Hey, credit to them. And Miami...
Credit to them for losing 2
Well, no, credit to them for having such a good winning streak.
Oh,
and
right.
Miami has risen from the aquarium depths to win 2 in a row against 2 solid teams.
Don't go too far on that
Even your 49ers won, but your Bengals lost. But your Lions lost.
See, that's why I have 2 teams. That's a better chance of coming out winning.
That's true.
We're going to talk plenty of football, but
plenty
first,
of football.
We're going to talk a little Celtics and Major League Baseball, if you can believe it, because it's about that time. GMs are getting together. They do their GM meetings at this time of year for 4 days, and then the free agent market starts going nuts. It's already begun a little, but it's going to go nuts very shortly. The GM's getting together down in Florida, and one of the big issues they're going to talk about, instant replay in Major League Baseball. Should we have it? Should we not? And you, my friend, the fan of what you call the 5-hour game, which is a complete examation. It's only about...
I thought they were meeting in Seekonk.
3 hours.
No, they're in Florida.
Right up the street.
In Florida.
In your favorite place to be. Instant replay, what's your thought on that coming from someone that thinks that baseball games go on a little too long as it is? You down for it? I mean, keeping in mind that the flip side, you might add a little 15 minutes onto the game, or I can't even speculate how long, but it's a chance to get a lot of bad calls right, which has happened.
I've always said there should be instant replay because of specifically in cases where most of it has to do with the ball either being a home run, foul, or fair.
Yep.
Down the third baseline, whether it hits the bag, whether it's, they can tell, get a good visual on if it's inside the chalk, hit the chalk, outside the chalk.
Same thing on the foul poles, outside the foul poles.
Fan interference, stuff like that. I mean, the umpires, they get together anyway.
Yeah, which is nice.
It's a foul ball, it's a home run. So, with the technology you have, especially in baseball, everything's up high. It's not like football where you have to get in the middle of a policy or fumble.
Right.
I think they could certainly slow the frames down and see clearly, as we've seen, especially in playoff games and stuff like that, whether there's fan interference, whether if it hit the top of the wall, or, every park is different. So the home run scenarios are a little bit different.
And these umpiring crews go from park to park. They're not at the same park. So what about ball strikes? And what about, scoop catches and not? What about safe or out calls on certain bases? Including home plate.
The one thing you bring up that's good, catches. I mean, I think that's a good call there, although you really can't. They'd have to come up with a way where if runners cross the bag, they'd have to figure out where everybody goes. But that's a good thing there. And again, I don't think that happens too many times. How many times has it been a catch in baseball?
Well, say if it happens, 5 times per team or per game.
Like football, there's 4 or 5 times a game. I'm just saying, how many times in baseball?
Well, not 4 or 5 per game. I mean, 4 or 5 times per team in the course of the season.
To the umpire's credit, they get most of those calls right.
Well,
so I just think
they do, but there's been plenty of times when they haven't. Yeah,
but I just think the instances are very few.
So are you saying...
I'm not a fan of slowing down the game. God knows you can take
but you're willing to add on a little bit of time in order to...
If that call comes up, and again, I think you'd have to agree, there's not many calls where that's going to come up.
So what do you think? Set of rules set forth and saying, hey, in this instance, this is the only time you can call a replay. Yeah, is it made by the umpires? Are we talking football here where the managers get one red flag a game?
They throw out a softball and hit the umpire.
Oh, no. That could be bad news.
No, I think when there's a controversy involved, they'll have to come up with a system. I don't know if a challenge system is warranted.
Right.
Because the game's always stopped. In football, it kind of keeps going. You almost can't do it. In baseball, I'm sure the manager could walk out, or I'm sure the umpire.
Can you imagine a manager throwing a big red flag towards the mound?
Big base.
Hit Pedro in the
Pinella,
head.
He'd be dangerous.
Oh, forget it.
But no, I think they could come up with some instances and for different things like that. I say especially in the playoffs. I mean, if they do it in the playoffs, they'll do it in regular season. But especially in the playoffs, you get a big game, foul ball. Was it fair? Did the guy catch it? The famous Yankee fan interference.
Or maybe they don't even make instant replay available during the season. Maybe it's only a postseason thing just to try it out. Me personally,
Absolutely.
I feel I'm against instant replay. They've done a lot to try to shorten the length of this game as it is, and have been successful doing so, bringing it from an average of over 3 hours or 3 hours to under 3 hours now. Believe it or not, it is under 3 hours.
I don't believe it. I don't.
You see where they have conferences on the mound. The umpire spends 10 seconds, and he's walking out to that mound to break things up. I think they've done a good job trying to shorten the game. I think they could do even better trying to shorten the game. I say, let's get an appeal process going. If it's found out that a team lost a game because of a call, you get to appeal the game, and if that's won over, you have to replay the game. That would actually end up probably tending to be even less lengthened time over the course of the season because of how many times. Of course, there's certain scenarios where you're like, well, what? Why are you looking at me like that? You don't think that's a good idea?
No, because why are you going to go back and fix a problem when you can fix it on the spot?
Because it's just going to be used unnecessarily.
Oh, he was ahead by 1 game. He's behind by 1 game. And now he's at half. Now we're going to move them up.
It doesn't take much time to make up a game. I mean, if a 2-run shot was called foul, and you later find out it was a home run, and the team lost by that, or could have tied it.
If you find out later, it's too late. I mean, if you think the ball is foul, you go up to the replay, you check it. The camera, I'm sure, will show, because baseball, there's not many moving parts like football where you got to go down to the middle of a pile, like I said before, and check it out. I think it's clear to see.
If that's the case, then I say no. Keep the game.
I say yes.
Keep the game the way it is. Other things going on. Free agents, of course, available, and talks have begun. Some of the top pitchers out there: Barry Zito, Jason Schmidt, Jeff Suppan. You could form opinions or not about any of these guys. They're all, at least at some point, all-stars. Whether some of them are washed up now and looking for their last contract or not is up for debate. The best hitters in the league, Soriano and Lee, of course. I don't know if you want to include Bonds. Maybe not one of the better hitters in the league, but certainly a name that people still enjoy hearing tossed around. How would you like Barry Bonds to be in a Red Sox uniform as the DH of this team?
I don't think I would go for that.
Even knowing he could pound out home runs at any point.
Yeah, I think it just creates too much of a controversy.
You're probably right.
Too many side stories.
Soriano, well worth the money.
I like
not
Soriano.
sure.
I like Lee, but those guys are going to be, worth some money.
So, what are we not going to start spending money all of a sudden? I mean, we got to catch up to that Yankees payroll.
No, but by the time the people watch your show, they'll have known that the Red Sox are probably going to be the highest bidder for Andrew Dice Clay. I mean, I can't believe the guy's been making a comeback and pitching.
And he's been in Japan better yet.
He's been in Japan pitching.
Matsuzaka.
Matsuzaka. Dice, right?
Am I now,
Daitsu.
You always
Daitsu.
seem to think that I'm like somehow what's the word that you use when I'm a little shady in some ways that all I want to say
walking the preferential line.
Well, a lot of Japanese imports have the Matsu in it, and I'm just curious as to if there's a translation there. I don't want you jumping all over me, telling me that I'm all over the Japanese players, and there he goes.
I didn't say anything. I just can't wait to hear your comments. Something
Matsu.
Like they should say over there in their own country. Is that how you feel?
There's 2 Matsuis over. What does Matsu translate to is all I'm asking. Matsui, Matsuzaka. I'm not even going down the path because I see where you're going. Speculation. Now, the viewers of this show will know something that we don't because we're shooting this on the evening of Tuesday.
Yep.
Prior to, in minutes possibly, we could find out whether or not we won the winning bid.
I mean, most people think that the Red Sox have the winning bid.
Peter Gammons reported last night that we got the winning bid at $42 million to negotiate.
There's even been reports, and again, we don't know yet. By the time the show airs, viewers, especially in the Rhode Island area, will have known that the Red Sox paid at least $42 million. Some reports of around $50 million just for negotiating rights.
Now, is that payment like that? Literally, is payment given as far as you know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, the only thing that's not given is if they can't come to a contract agreement, they will get that money back.
Oh, okay. So, essentially, if I'm hearing this right, the Red Sox could throw out some ridiculously high number, $42 million. beat out the Yankees because you know they're putting in a bid, and then say, you know what?
That's been thrown out there.
We want you, but it's just not going to be worth it.
That's been thrown out there.
So is the inevitable Scott Boras kind of making a little bit of a mistake here for his client, where he's put himself in that situation?
I think they have to accept the bid, though. I don't think they can choose. That's the thing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know that he can negotiate with one team for 1 month, and after that, he has to go back.
Yeah.
There's none of this, well, we couldn't reach agreement with the Red Sox. I want to go talk to the Yankees.
That's it. Red Sox only.
This is it. So there's a story in the Projo today about how the Red Sox have genuine interest. I would hope they would if they're going to bid all this money and talk to the guy. By all accounts, he's 26 years old.
Right.
Which, by all accounts, I mean, that's what I meant to say was, by all accounts, he's got tremendous stuff.
Yep.
He's pitched a ton of innings, though.
Right.
He can really carry the load. And the Red Sox are projecting him to be between 1 and 3, which at this point would be good.
As a starter?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I'd want more than 3. I would hope this guy is either a 1 or 2.
I would agree with you there. But, I mean, by the time you add in this $42 million in his salary, which is projected to be between 12 and 15 mil,
right,
you're talking a heavy investment.
I'm still confused. And I've been confused about this all along. If they negotiate a 5-year, $12 million a year salary, that's 60 mil. So now, is this 42 mil going to him in addition to 60 mil, or is it 42 mil sort of?
That's just a negotiating right to the Cebu Lions.
Okay. So they're paying that regardless?
So he doesn't get that.
He's not even getting it.
That's for the Cebu Lions.
They're paying 42 mil
just to talk to him.
To the Japanese baseball team that he belongs to talk to him, regardless of whether that goes through. That was more offensive to Japanese people than what I was saying, I think.
I was just saying, correct. Correct, Scott.
That's a great Asian accent. Good job. Anyway, I don't even
know.
No,
but that's the deal. If they don't come up with an agreement, they do get that money back.
Okay.
From the Cebu Lions.
If they do,
sign him,
42 goes to them.
Absolutely.
And extra.
Well,
is this guy worth $60 million?
Well, that's the thing. Even though you're not paying him that money, that's essentially what you put out.
That's ridiculous.
Well,
how could that even be remotely close to a reasonable dollar amount for this guy? See, I've got an issue with the whole. Who plays in Seattle?
Ichiro?
Ichiro is probably the biggest exception to this rule. And this is truthful. If you look into the stats, there's this rush of Japanese players coming into Major League Baseball. There have been a lot of problems with first years for these Japanese players. I don't know if it's a language barrier. I doubt it because you have a lot of Latino players in the league, although they also...
Latinos speak Japanese, though.
No, however, they don't speak English. But they come into a team, more than likely there's other Spanish-speaking players on that team. Anyway, that's the age we're playing in. These Japanese players, I don't know if it's the language barrier or the style of baseball between Japan and America.
Matsui's been successful. Ichiro's been successful.
Ichiro's been very successful. Matsui, a little lower numbers in his first year as he worked his way up.
Yeah.
And he was considered a veteran coming into Major League Baseball. Yeah, he scored 100 runs, but he's a product of his team,
This guy here, they say, is like an emperor there.
I hope so.
He's so successful.
I've
heard some scouts and everything. I agree with you. This is like a big investment. Okay?
Sure. And it's a big chance.
It's a big chance. This is one of those high-risk, high-reward deals. I would agree with you. I like the fact... I'm much happier that it's a pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay, if it was a hitter, I'd say, no way you do this.
How come?
Well, because I believe you need pitching to win championships. They have Ortiz. They have Manny. We talked about that before.
More of a team issue, not so much.
If you get this guy, and let's say he's a solid number 2. That's kind of a middle road.
Yeah.
Solid number 2, even though the Sox number 1, Josh Beckett, and you throw Papelbon into the mix.
You're looking at a good 1-2-3 punch right there.
Not too bad there. If you can solidify that rotation, you have to find a closer.
Right.
No, I would take that. If he's all he's cut out to be, and I've said before, I don't care how much money they pay, as long as it doesn't prohibit them from improving their team in other areas.
Well, I spoke to Dave Betancourt earlier, and he said the same thing. It's not my money. No, but it is your money when you go buy a baseball ticket and you can't, one game costs you $100.
Yeah, but that's going to happen regardless. That's going to happen regardless. So.
It's not going to go down, though, when they...
Well, it'll be interesting. By all accounts, the kid is an unbelievable pitcher. Now,
yeah.
Obviously, worst case scenario would be to pay all this money, have the kid come here and be kind of
That's a lot of dough,
average pitcher. But he's pitched since he was like 18 years old. So
I think the Red Sox should not sign anybody that has Scott Boras as a agent.
Well, that's one of the problems. He's
Can't
got
stand
Scott,
that guy.
Scott Boras as an agent. That's, having the highest bid is only unfortunately for the Red Sox, one step.
Right.
Now you're going to face Scott Boras, and he's gonna demand some money, but.
Once again, we've gotten into the point where the Red Sox may have done this just to defend themselves from having the Yankees do this, because the Yankees need an ace just as bad.
That's possible. I just don't know why you would go through all that trouble. But, hey, business is business, and you never know.
A couple of minor things. Gary Tuck was the Marlins bench coach last year. He has now been called up as the bullpen coach, so we've got some of those coaching positions being filled. The Sox are talking to, supposedly, two free agents. Well, they're definitely talking to Julio Lugo. They're going back and forth there. And we remember what happened this past season, that they were trying to pick him up. What do you think of Julio Lugo getting an infielder who definitely has star potential? This guy's been pretty good, surrounded by a not-so-great cast at Tampa Bay.
I think Julio Lugo would be a pretty good addition. It's still early. I don't know if that's etched in stone yet.
Right. Sox not negotiating, but interested in J.D. Drew, who is now a free agent
not bad,
from L.A.
But he had a good year last year. But the money they're talking about.
He's going to want some bucks.
12 to 14 million. I heard. I just don't know if he's worth that much. I'll be honest with you.
Do you think we need an outfielder at this point?
Well, Trout's gone.
Right. But
in all likelihood, 99.5%. Willie Mo's there.
I'm sure he's gone, but I thought Willie Mo could fall into that seat. But
yeah, I think that if they're talking that much for J.D. Drew,
if they're talking that much for J.D. Drew, I'll tell you who is on the trading block then, and that's got to be Crisp. There's no way that they'd be bringing J.D. Drew in to replace anyone but probably Crisp. They're probably going to use Crisp as a token.
And that'll start to heat up in a week or two, probably.
Can't wait. It's going to be good. Want to move on to
I can wait.
crappier teams here in the Boston area? And no, I'm not talking about the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
Quickly, the Boston Celtics, after last night's loss, where they just played awful basketball, they are now officially 1-6 at the point of us shooting this show.
How about the other night? They were up by 19 with like 10 minutes to go.
Terrible.
I'm frustrated with this team because they've brought in a lot of pieces. And you always got this hope of all these young players like, the Kendrick Perkins was really not materializing. Rajon Rondo started hot in preseason, exhibition season.
Yep.
And now they say, well, he's not fitting into what we're trying to do right now.
Right.
Ryan Gomes has been solid for Providence, of course. But they just haven't been able to do what they want to do. And it's frustrating because this is what, the fourth year for Danny Ainge?
Yeah,
this is a pivotal year.
Not just Danny Ainge, but Doc as well.
Oh, Doc is on the hot seat. There's no doubt about it. And I, to be honest with you, I don't know if it's, he's going to take the fall, but I don't know if it's 100% him. These guys they're not running, they're not playing defense.
They're playing terrible defense. Last night's game,
It's Paul Pierce. It's Paul Pierce, and it's Paul Pierce.
Their second quarter scoring was 17%, 17.4% in a quarter. That's dismal. That's not going to get you to win any games. That alone, that quarter alone, and believe it or not, they actually came back and had a lead briefly, but that quarter alone is enough to that's it for that game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The
You
Celtics
can't do
are very
that.
disappointing. I've always cut them some slack because of all their championships, but it's getting to the point now where,
those championships are getting kind of old,
well,
though.
not only that, they've been at the bottom for 6 or 7 years, and they're not climbing up. Sometimes when a team goes down, you expect them to get the draft picks and so forth. They've made some bad moves, got into bad contracts, and they've drafted all these kids, and every year you get the promise of the kids, and now I thought Al Jefferson was going to be pretty good. And it's just like, you keep stirring the mashed potatoes, but it doesn't come out right.
Still lumpy.
Right, still lumpy.
It's still
right.
a lumpy Celtics team.
It's frustrating because it'd be nice to see them get on a run with it.
Well, I share in your frustration because I'm getting kind of sick of hearing Doc, and I know it's not all Doc. His players got to play, and Ainge has something to do with this too. I'm kind of getting sick of Doc saying, this is a good team. I feel very comfortable with this good team. It's just a matter of time. You know what?
Yeah,
there's been a lot of time.
Oh, the games we lost, we could have won. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, you can always win the games you lose.
And I kind of like Doc, but Ainge is on a hot seat too. So I don't know. I really don't know where they can go. They got Paul Pierce who's stuck in nowhere.
Yeah, you know what amazes me, and I want to talk about Paul Pierce for a quick minute. Last night, they put everything on his shoulders, and I'm not going to say the rest of the team stood around, but it was no doubt whatsoever that it was only up to Pierce. He went for a three-pointer towards the end of the game, missed it. That's it. And the game, there's no one else that you can give it to. I find it pretty, I'll say, anti-Manny Ramirez-esque, if that can be a word. in that Paul Pierce is flying solo on this crappy Celtics team, and he has not said boo once. I have not heard a word from him this year after a 1-6 start.
He's been a pretty good soldier, pretty classy guy, so I like Paul Pierce, but you know what?
Is he helping this team? I mean, you got to think
he's
this
not
veteran.
hurting it.
No,
You get rid of him.
Not stat-wise or anything like that, but is he coming in as a leader? Because we remember in prior years, he didn't want to be a leader, though, in prior years.
I don't think there's any question about that. I think that's the least of their problems, Paul Pierce.
Want to talk about the Patriots and the rest of Major League?
Let's talk some NFL.
Major League Football, MLF. The Pats, as you mentioned earlier, for the first time in 4 years, have officially lost 2 in a row. And it's just fun to listen to sports talk radio and hear all you fans talk about how the Patriots stink and Brady stinks and Belichick's a numbnut. Boy, it's kind of funny how things change in Patriot Nation.
Wow, you said it. I did it. Wow. 49ers, Scott, waiting at the Patriot fans.
It's unbelievable how quickly people can jump
off. The channels are turning.
Yeah, that's fine. They don't have to watch.
It is pretty amazing.
That's all you heard on Monday, right?
It is pretty amazing how people turn quickly. And Brady, what's on his mind. Belichick's got personal problems. The offensive coordinator. 2 weeks ago, they played the Vikings. Belichick and the offensive coordinator was a genius.
Yeah, and Brady was the best quarterback ever.
So it's unbelievable how people turn. I mean, they lost 2 in a row for the first time in 4 years.
Right.
And, I mean, almost any other fan, I'm not saying that Patriots should just drink the juice and not criticize anything or be critical of how the team plays.
It's only human nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the bottom line with this team is I think they've played with the, coach him up theory a little bit too long. I mean, Tom Brady, we talked about it earlier. To me, he doesn't have enough weapons.
They might have lost one too many receivers
they
finally.
Got Doug Gabriel, Rashae Colbert had a pretty good game. But
90 yards.
Chad Jackson. We talked about this.
Chad Jackson sucks.
And I said...
He sucks.
What did I say? Did I not say the guy's a rookie, receivers take a while to mature, and he comes from a school who I like, Florida, that has a wide-open offense that sometimes makes receivers look a lot better than they are. That's all I'm saying. But everybody was putting their hopes on this guy.
Which is not fair to do for a rookie.
It's not fair, and I don't think it's something you should expect. It's not reasonable to expect that. Now, Doug Gabriel kind of got benched, so they traded for him.
Right.
So Ben Watson shows flashes. It's flashes here and there. And Tom Brady is,
well, we'll talk
he's
about,
a little bit off.
We'll talk about Brady. People are starting to question his performance after that great performance against Minnesota. He's had back-to-back crappy performances. I think he has 6 interceptions now in the last 2 games. And what people are pointing to is that he's on the injury report every week as probable with a shoulder injury on his throwing arm. Is this guy playing hurt and just he's sucking it up, being his usual toughness and not saying anything?
You're not going to get that from Belichick, and his throws are a little off. I didn't have a chance to see a lot of the game because I was watching the Miami. I kept flipping back and forth, but from what I heard in the highlights I've seen, he has made some throws here and there that are off.
Right.
He's also getting a lot of pressure, and let's give the Jets a lot of credit this game. Mangini came in, which is a whole other story between him and Belichick.
Right.
And, he had a lot of familiarity with the Patriots, and they gave him a lot of looks, frustrated Brady. They were in his face all day, and I don't care what quarterback you have. You get in his face, his throws are going to start to change a little bit, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And even that, they still had a chance at the end, but listen, give the Jets some credit. They harassed him all day, and Chad Pennington made these ugly duckling throws.
Oh, he
but
played
they're
terrible.
accurate. They're accurate.
But there's no reason why the D shouldn't have been covering some of those throws. Those were softball.
They ran the ball. They played a good, solid football game.
Well, defensively, they played better than they did the first time around against the Patriots. They made those adjustments, and I guess Belichick didn't. Belichick is spreading the blame. He's saying it's a little of everyone. A little defense, a little offense, a little Brady, a little Belichick, little coaches.
Little coaching.
There are some veterans in the locker room that are questioning Belichick's calls, and specifically calls of the coaching staff. It makes me, when I read that in the paper, and I read it in the Providence Journal on, I believe it was Monday, it makes me kind of wonder if things aren't as cohesive in that locker room after 2 losses in a row as they might be. Players are coming out and saying, no, we're still a unit, we're taking the blame together. But are they just saying the right thing to reporters? There's a lot of things coming out we haven't heard in a long time out in the press.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Belichick's behavior towards Mangini, I don't know what the problem is. Everybody's been questioning that. I mean, if you saw him after the game, Mangini kind of grabbed his arm. Belichick just kind of pulled away, so good game, and it took off. And he sat down Richard Seymour at a critical juncture in the game.
Absolutely.
At the end of the game, Belichick says, if you look at the time, he's played in about the same amount of time. So Belichick doesn't like to say anything. I think that's what frustrates a lot of people.
And Seymour's pissed about that.
And Seymour wasn't happy about it because I heard him live on the radio. How about this? I don't know if you heard about this. Richard Seymour has given out a phone number to fans. Okay?
Okay.
And I believe the phone number is 494-1194-401. I'm giving that out on the TV. I hope it's not the wrong number. I'm pretty sure that's
Some old lady's going to be calling you.
No, seriously. He said he wanted to connect with the fans. He gave him a Rhode Island phone number.
Yeah.
And it's Richard Seymour on the other line. He will either check the voicemail.
Yeah.
You can text him. Or he said he would answer some because he said he didn't have any way to connect with the fans. He was trying to do something to connect with the fans. No, this is a true story.
Does he want to connect? What do you mean connect with the fans?
He's the first athlete to do that.
That's connecting with fans.
Well, but that's...
So he just wants to chat, like, on a regular basis?
He just wants to give his fans an opportunity to either talk to him. You know, obviously he said the phone line's not going to be open 24 hours a day.
What was that number?
494-1194.
Oh, we're going to get on that. Because, man, if this is the case, we're calling it next week live on the show. It's happening.
I believe that's a number, but
me and Jay.
I'll have
we'll talk with Jay
after the show. I hope it's not too
interesting.
Late, not somebody else's.
That's all right. We'll find out soon enough. So Richard Seymour ticked. Billy Yates. You talked about the offensive line and the pressure that the Jets put.
They've been off too.
On Brady.
They kind of had a subpar.
Well, they're going to be off even more. Billy Yates from the O-line is out now for the season with a broken leg. And he was only in, because the first 6 weeks he was on the practice squad, he was only in playing for the Patriots because of injuries. Now he's down. That's taken a huge piece of that offensive line.
Well, and not only that, now their schedule, which consisted of Green Bay, at Green Bay, home against Chicago. Chicago went in and beat up on the Giants. Detroit, at Miami, which is never easy, no matter how bad Miami is.
Right. True.
Especially now, look at the way the Patriots are playing. At Green Bay, Green Bay's turned it around.
Sure they have.
So it'll be interesting the next few weeks to see how the Patriots rebound from this hole. And bear in mind that the Jets are 5-4, only one game behind.
Well, that was the last thing I was going to ask you. With the Jets being a game behind, and I think Miami and Buffalo, they each 3 games behind at this point. I don't want to jump on things too early. We're only 9 games in, but is there somewhat of a chance that now Patriots fans might be thinking that the Pats could actually stand to not win this division after all?
Well, most people seem to think that the Pats are still going to win the division. So, and I would probably agree. I think they've got just enough, but
they'll turn it around.
I mean, you never know. And we talked about Miami early in the year about all the theories about the coaching and stuff like that. You know what? Like I told you before, all the theories fit when you're losing.
Absolutely.
Like, you want to clear this stuff up with Belichick, Brady, the receivers and everything, win at Green Bay and everything. So, unfortunately, people just aren't used to it around here. It's the first time you lost 2 games in a row. But
keep listening to that sports talk. Hear the
we'll
negativity of the fans.
More NFL next week.
We're going to wrap things up. Congrats to the Bryant University Bulldogs, who for the first time set a school record in their 8-year young record seasons that they've had. They've got 8 victories for the first time ever, and they've got their first ever bid to the NCAA Division II tourney. They'll be facing Westchester in Pennsylvania Saturday at noon, so be sure to support the Bulldogs. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Jen behind the glass there, and I'll see you next week for show 152. It's a sports show, yahoo.com. Keep those emails coming.